Hey, this is Aaron.
And this is Kristin.
This is the Drive Mode Show.
Welcome, welcome. Today we're going to talk about Nissan's brand new Pathfinder for 2022.
Yep, the Pathfinder, not the RPG game, the car. The Pathfinder has been around quite a while. You and I remember it as the everybody needs to have this Nissan of the early 90s, the late 80s, early 90s. It was basically it was a truck-based SUV, and it was exceedingly capable, at least in reputation. So in real life, I don't know, because I never actually got to drive one back then. They were expensive when you're like 22 years old. It was a lot of money to buy one of these, any new car, but this.
When you're 22, everything sounds expensive, but it really was capable. I mean, I definitely knew people who kept theirs for a long time and did quite a bit of off-roading with them.
Mm-hmm. And you still see them around. It's pretty interesting. When I was spending a lot of time in Moab, I would see them all the time. Now, they were usually modified by that point. So they would be, at that point, 10, 15 years old, and they had some lift added on and bigger tires and stuff. But they would still be rocking the same engine, still be rocking that same transmission, and still be just climbing rocks and bouncing through the wilderness. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah, and I think the 2022 Pathfinder is a much different type of vehicle. It's got a totally different personality, but it's well suited for the market. And with 3 rows, like, it's definitely in where it needs to be to sell.
Mm-hmm. So a couple of generations ago, I think it was, Nissan moved it to a unibody versus a body-on-frame truck base. So they moved it to a unibody design. It shares some commonality with like the Murano and the Rogue. The difference being that the Pathfinder is the larger of those, and it tends to have a little more robustness to its build to keep up with that earlier persona.
Yeah, and I have it in my driveway right now, and it's in this Caspian blue metallic that's very pretty. It's like a deep blue, and I appreciate the exterior colors. Yes, I think the 3rd row is small, but it's fine for kids. I've been carting around 11-year-olds to animation camp all week, and they like it. And there's USB ports in every row. There's 18 cup holders in this thing, so it is a family vehicle gone wild.
Yeah. So I also have it this week, so this is why we're doing this video. We both have it at the same time. Mine is in obsidian green pearl in 2-tone. So it's really good looking. It's a great color. And it's a green that would only look good in very specific circumstances. This vehicle happens to be one of them. It's exactly the right color for that. If it was too dark, if it was a little bit darker, a little bit lighter, it would just not look good. And if it was on a different shape of vehicle, so it was on maybe even another SUV, but different shape, it just wouldn't look right. But it looks exactly right on this one. My biggest beef with the Pathfinder in this new edition, the 2022, is really just in the design, the exterior. I don't really like the look of it. It feels like Nissan was desperate to copy because it kind of has, like, the rear end looks like the looks like the Kia. What's the right one I'm looking for? Bigger one, Telluride. The rear end looks like the Telluride. The roof line and the kind of floating rear roof look like Ford, and the front end kind of looks like Volkswagen or Ford. It's just kind of, to me, it's just kind of like I'm not seeing anything really unique there. But on the inside, it's beautiful. Mine is priced at about $50,000 delivered, and I feel like sitting in it and driving it, I feel like that was well spent. So it feels really good on the inside. plenty of technology, plenty of nice material, just a good layout. Rubber floor mats in mine were an option. You add them on, but totally worth it, especially if you have kids.
Yeah.
And rubberized rear cargo area, another huge thing. Really good idea. So I like that. I like the technology. I'm just not really sold on the look.
I think that manufacturers are somewhat limited these days, where back in the 50s, I mean, cars were so wild and crazy and different. You could put these sharp fins on them, these big hood ornaments that could hurt a pedestrian if they crashed into someone. And I love that individuality. I think that manufacturers now are very concerned with aerodynamics and figuring out how to not be too different because they want to appeal to the masses, right? So, from that, it doesn't really bother me. The outside doesn't really bother me. I think the inside is very nice and lush, and I do love Nissan's seating, especially their zero gravity seats. But they do a good job of comfortable seats. Two things that I wish they would have changed. One, I would love to have this vehicle with a Fender audio system. I think it would be a lot better. And the other thing, I do feel like it needs a digital rear view mirror, digital camera, because that back window is the visibility is not as good as I would like for it to be.
And on that one, I'm kind of surprised it's not at least an option, because you can get it in the Armada, you can get it in other Nissan vehicles. So I'm kind of surprised it's not at least an option for this. And maybe it will be down the road. We both have to realize, or have to point out, that we are driving pre-production prototypes. So these are not necessarily what's going to be coming off the production line a little bit later this year. So there could be a handful of small changes or changes to the configurator that, as to options and other things that we can have. I like the fact that, I don't know if you know this, and maybe we should just do a video of cool things you can do with your key fob. But the Nissan in particular, because I haven't been able to do this in any Ford vehicle yet or any Volkswagen vehicle yet. If you look at the key fob, I happen to have it in my pocket, so I'll just show it to you. The unlock button, you push it once and then you push it a second time and hold it. All the windows roll down and it lets everything air out. So if you're like we have been this last week, where it is like 9 gajillion degrees outside, Frodo's trying to throw a ring in your yard, it's like horrible hot. If you've been like that, then you'll appreciate the fact that you can just hold the button from your front living room in the air conditioning or the fan, and all the windows will roll down, and all that heat that's been building up in that greenhouse can be let out. Like I said, the cabin is just great. I even like the second row. The captain's chairs back there are really well done. They're on par with minivans as far as comfort goes. So really well done.
I agree. This is giving minivans a run for its money because it's got that same kind of comfort. It's really thought through all the family options, and I like that it has a 120 volt outlet, like a 3-prong outlet in the second row. I love that because if I'm somewhere, like my laptop battery is junk, so if I in somewhere and work from the vehicle, and that's really handy. It's not just USB ports, but then they also have in the back behind the third row, they have a cooler segment with a drain plug. So you could put ice and beverages back there behind your third row and then drain out the water.
Mm-hmm. And just as one more point, this is a shout out to John Gorham. My particular Pathfinder has a full-size spare. He's always big on that.
Well, I mean, we're big on audio systems. I'm big on audio controls. We talked about that a lot. Full-size spare is also a good thing to have, especially when you've got an SUV.
Yes. So I would rank the Pathfinder in this iteration and probably the generation before. I think they're roughly the same in terms of who they're for. These are family hauling vehicles that are slightly more capable in inclement weather and, say, dirt road use. I don't think that I would take one seriously off-road, but they're more capable than they appear. And I've taken them out and done that sort of thing, and they've always been surprising. But they're not a three-row vehicle. I would think of the third row as when you need it, not all the time. So if you have very small kids, the third row is fine as an all-the-time drive-around sitting spot. But most of the time, I would relegate it to the occasional. You're taking your kids to camp, and you have a couple extra to throw in the car, or you happen to say, like we did with the Nissan Rogue back in the day, when they still had a three-row. We drove that to my mom's house, and then once there, with all of our stuff out of the back, we put the kids in the back seat, and then my mom and my aunt could sit in the middle, and we were up front, and you had room, and it was occasional use. We didn't have to use it all the time. If you're going to need a three-row to use all the time, I think you need to go slightly bigger than the Pathfinder to get that. But it's a very useful vehicle, and it has pretty good towing as well.
I think so. Yeah, 6,000 pounds of towing is pretty decent. And I think that what you say is true about the three rows. I think it's really good for people who need occasional three rows. And I know a lot of parents who want that. Like when people who ask me for advice on vehicles, a lot of people like to have that optional three row just in case they need it. It's not something for long road trips, not for big families, but it's great for driving around town if you just need to have a couple extra spaces in the vehicle.
Mm-hmm. It's just nice because, if you have, say, two kids and you take them swimming, well, they're going to end up wanting a friend apiece to come along. Now you have a third row, you add them in, you're good to go. And then the rest of the time, that third row is folded down, and you have cargo for days. So
that's right. That's right. It's got tons of space, and I love the way the new Nissan logo looks on the back, as well as the word Pathfinder across the back instead of in one of the corners. I think that's a good look.
I actually wanted to talk about the logo because when Nissan first came out with their logo, I was like, I didn't think it was really that great. I thought it was oversimplistic, right? And then as I've watched it, and now that I see it, especially out of print and actually physically on vehicles, I really like it because it's just a simpler look, and it's clean, which looks really good. And so I wonder if maybe the design of the Pathfinder that I'm looking at right now is also going to grow on me over time.
It might. I mean, and I think as auto journalists, we're trained to find the faults.
Yeah.
I get excited with every new vehicle I see, but the things that I like about this new Pathfinder is that they ditched the CVT, nice big sunroof. It's clean and comfortable inside. Like you, I love those captain's chairs. I really like that bin in the behind the third row to put drinks or even fishing. It'd be great for fishermen and stuff like that, fisher people.
Yeah.
And I think it's got a lot going for it.
The CVT is a very important point. Continuously variable transmission works very differently than a geared transmission, and Nissan replaced that with a 9-speed automatic. And I think that was a really good move because the Pathfinder and probably the Murano and maybe the Rogue, but definitely the Pathfinder and Murano, they're just slightly too big and heavy for a CVT, which is why they had reliability issues. Now that I see they're moving away from that and going to just lots of gears, which is what most everyone else in these segments are doing, it's going to be a great improvement. I think we're going to see Nissan, at least on these models that have moved to a geared transmission, we're going to see their reliability numbers jump, and that's a good thing for everybody involved.
I think that this is also ripe for a hybrid powertrain. I think it would help the pickup. The pickup is just a little sluggish when you're trying to merge onto the highway. I think the hybrid powertrain and electric motor would help get it going faster. Other than that, I thought the drive was really smooth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think most of the pickup issues that I've noticed is that Nissan, which they've done a lot in the past, they err on the side of efficiency. So the transmission is just not it's reluctant to downshift. So it tries to upshift as much as possible, stay in the highest gear possible. And when you're accelerating, you really need a downshift to add the RPM, and that sucks fuel. So, Nissan's really trying to balance on in favor of economy over power, because just around town driving, it's great. I've never felt like it didn't have enough.
Yep, and it's good moves.
Mm-hmm. So I think that's what we got.
2022 Nissan Pathfinder. I like it in Caspian blue.
I really like the green.
Fine.
Maybe they have the orange too, because they have the orange on other stuff that looks really awesome.
The Monarch orange. I don't know. We'll have to look that up.
Might be a little boxy for that cover to pull off, though. I'd have to see it.
Maybe so.
This is Aaron.
This is Kristin.
This is the Drive Mode Show.
Thanks for watching.
Hit the button right now. Oh, wait.